why we behave the way we do and how we can transform our behavioral pattern to achieve the fullest potential and develop a capacity to lead a successful life. This led me to study my applied psychology to understand human minds. Actually, people don't change their behavior unless it makes difference for them to do so, isn't it? Hello everyone, myself Dr. Manjula Prashant. I'm a dentist turned psychologist. Welcome to our channel, Digital Wellness. In today's session, we are going to talk about behavioral and language aspects, a topic which is very dear and near to my heart. Today we have our guest, Radhika Poovaiya, who is a US certified behavioral analyst. Radhika has also done a master's degree in speech language pathology. And she has a unique honor of being the only Asian to hold a dual qualification in 2 subjects. She is the founder director of Samvad Institute of Speech and Hearing, as well as Samvad Center of Speech Therapy and ABA Therapy in Bangalore. And I'm sure our conversation with Radhika will bring out some interesting insights about human behavior. Let us welcome today's guest, Radhika. Welcome, Radhika, to our channel, Digital Wellness. It's very nice to have you here with us.
Pleasure to be on the show with you.
Radhika, you have been a speech language pathologist and a behavioral analyst. It's very interesting. Can you share what you do as a speech language pathologist and a behavioral analyst? Who do you help and how?
Okay, I'm a speech pathologist is a new subject in India, right? It's a new topic and therefore it is very unknown. People don't know what we are capable of. So we are trained to handle all communication disorders. So what are the communication disorders? See, learning to communicate, learning to express ourselves, learning to share our feelings, discuss, argue, share happiness, plan for the future. All these are unique gifts for human beings, right? But this came effortlessly to us. By the age of 3, most children are able to communicate effectively. They are able to communicate beautifully. No parent put effort, children didn't put effort. It just happened, you know. But 3 to 5% of children are not able to learn to communicate effortlessly. And what is the reason? So if they have a hearing issue, they did not learn to communicate. Or if they've had a trauma in the brain due to infections or birth injuries, then the brain gets, the speech areas that are in the brain get damaged and therefore communication gets affected. All right. And fourth, the other reason for not able to communicate is autism, which is a condition in which the child doesn't show any interest to communicate. All right. And the other common problem is a cleft palate and cleft lip, where the child's lip is not joined and the palate also there is a hole. So surgery has to be done so that he can eat well, the child can eat, and then speech gets effective because the clarity gets affected because air escapes through the nose.
Okay.
Right. So these are the conditions that we help. These are serious conditions because these are severe disabilities. To get back to mainstream, a lot of effort is required.
Correct.
You know, early identification and intensive training. But the other problems like a speech problem that is related to just fluency. You must have heard of children who stammer.
That's true.
Or children who have a hoarse voice. All right. So these problems are not such a severe disability. They are just a simple disorder.
Okay.
So we look after in children, we look after or we help any of these problems. We solve any of these problems. Okay. But we also work with the whole age group. We work with older people, we work with adults, we work with senior citizens who have had a stroke, who have lost their voice box because of cancer.
Oh.
So this is a very intensive course and we are trained to treat a variety of speech and communication disorders. So as behavior analysts, behavior analysts are trained to increase good behavior, decrease undesirable behavior. All right. So it is a simple definition. What do we do as behavior analysts?
Very
so
nice.
we just increase. So what is the behavior we want to increase? It could be the ability to pay attention in class. It could be the ability to speak better. It could be the ability to fold your clothes and put it in the shelf. It could be the ability to hit a ball with a bat. It could be the ability to point to objects when I ask you. So any of these behaviors can be improved, right? And behaviors like hitting, when they're throwing a tantrum, or undesirable behavior, any undesirable behavior can also be reduced. So earlier we thought, we gave labels like, oh, this child is very difficult, he's very spoiled, we can't do anything to him. You know, he's very difficult. And then they'll blame parenting. Oh, parents have to be blamed. Yes, of course. I mean, but today we know that we can solve these problems. We don't just give labels and say that person didn't do, the mother didn't do a job properly, father didn't do the job properly. This could be the reason. Today we can solve these behavior problems. We can improve the child's ability to do things, and we can decrease anything that is preventing him from being socially acceptable.
Wow.
All right. So it's a very powerful science. It can change human behavior and improve quality of life. And a combination of both really makes me feel very empowered that I can help my clients who come to me and give them a better quality of life, improve their communication, and bring a smile in the family's life, bring some peace in the house.
That's you know.
Just give me a minute. My charge is lost. I'll just charge my laptop.
Sure.
Just give me 2 seconds.
Radhika, it's such an interesting topic to know, and you are in such a noble work that you are doing. Some children take some time to talk, or delay in speech. So when should parents or adults approach a speech language pathologist?
Yeah, this is very important to understand, because we should know when to see a specialist, right? It's not as obvious as seeing a doctor. See, if you have fever, you just go to a doctor. You know you need to see a doctor. If you have a tummy ache also, you know very clearly after 2 days, if the tummy ache doesn't go, you go and see a doctor. Sure. But speech language pathologists, when to see? So in India, when you say, mothers will say, my child is not talking, I'm very worried, what to do? Shall I see a specialist? Most families will say, don't worry, everything will be fine. You are being over-critical. You are comparing your child with others. And this mother is made to shut up. All right. And she will be having this nagging doubt. Something is not okay with my child, because the mother's instinct is very powerful. Okay. So what we say is there are certain milestones. We are not saying compare your child for looks, or compare your child based on how much he eats or what he does, but you have to compare the milestones. You must be alert that these milestones must be met on a particular time frame. Like all children should walk before the age of 15 months, right? If there is a delay, the child starts walking at 2 years, there is a problem. There seems to be a muscle issue, weakness in muscles or something. Okay, so if there's a delay in milestones, parents should be alert to these milestones. So what are the speech milestones? When do we say you must see a speech pathologist? One of the first milestones that we tell parents to be alert to is a response to environmental sounds and response to his name. So by any time after 6 to 10 months, children should respond to their name. Some of the children will respond to music, or they respond to, but they won't respond to their name. So that is a red flag. The parents should be concerned about it and meet an audiologist and a speech pathologist, because we can check out what is going wrong.
Okay.
So hearing is very important, because you learn to communicate only through your ears. You don't learn to communicate through your eyes, right? So the integrity of the hearing system is very important.
That's so
nice. Listening to your name is a very important milestone. The child should respond by the age of before 8 to 10 months. By 8 to 10 months, he should respond to his name. The second is he should start calling the parents, start using words to communicate, right? So he must be able to call mother's attention by saying mama or amma, whichever word. So that comes before 18 months.
Okay.
By 18 months latest, children should be learning to use words to communicate. So it could be the first few words of every child is generally mama, dada, grandfather's name, tata. Correct. Or they will ask for their food, mum, or milk. And they will learn to say no very well. And they learn to say bye.
Correct.
You know, so these are the few words. At least they should have 10 meaningful words by the time they are 18 months. Minimum.
By the time of 18 months.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. By 18 months, at least 10 meaningful words should be there.
Okay.
And how much should he understand? He should be able to understand minimum 15 to 20 commands. What are the commands 2-year-old children should know? Come here, sit down, food is ready, say bye, light, switch on the fan, take this, give this, simple commands. Okay. Do namaste, you know. So these are the simple commands children should start responding by the time they are 18 months, right? We cannot give excuses. Oh, I think he's not in a mood. I think he's being not well. So these are the excuses that cause a delay in coming to a therapist, you know. And then the other important thing is by 3 years, sentences should start. So he started speaking in words, vocabulary is increasing from 20 words to 40 to 50. Then slowly by 3 years, he should have a vocabulary of 800 to 1000 words.
Okay.
And the child should be able to make a sentence. Like he says, go, I want to go home. All right. Uta beku, uta beda, mane hogbeku, appa elli. All these are simple sentences. They should be able to frame. And the grammar also should appear by the age of 4. All the grammatical markers also should be there. Like the child at 4 should not be talking like, I go, I mama want. For a 4-year-old, that's not acceptable.
Correct.
For a 2-year-old, it's acceptable. All right. By 4 years, we expect him to use a pronoun. I want mama. Okay. I want to go out. Not go out, go out. That is for a 2-year-old. Okay. So there are developmental milestones that have to be. Yeah. It should be met. Only then we know language is developing normally.
Wow.
Then the other one, this is language.
Okay.
Speech part, when a child is mispronouncing sounds, like instead of car, he will say tar.
Okay. Yeah.
Or for bus, he might say batt. Nai battu pochi, battu oitu, battu oitu.
Correct.
You know, it's very cute when they are small.
I know.
But if a 4-year-old child is saying that, it's not a good sign. So we say wait till about 3.5. And if speech is not intelligible and people can't understand him and he's making errors in speech sounds, it's better to give him therapy before he's 5 years of age. Because after that, if it persists, it is very hard to correct.
Okay.
So we get children who are 7 years, 8 years. Now the friends have started imitating them. And then the child is embarrassed.
Correct.
Oh, he's saying Coca-Cola, he's saying Toto-Tola. So he becomes a joke in the class.
Correct. And
we feel sorry.
Yeah,
we feel sorry because it's easy to correct. At 4 years of age, you could have within 2 weeks, you could have corrected it.
So true. I think it's very
easy to correct.
Yeah. Go ahead, Radhika.
Okay. So then the other problem is, which is very commonly misdiagnosed and not attended to, is stammering. So if children stammer, they generally stammer before their age, between 2.5 to 5. Anytime they can begin stammering. So stammering can appear suddenly. It is not that they will be, as soon as they start talking at 2 years, they'll stammer. They will speak well, and after 2.5, they may suddenly start stammering.
Okay.
So then what do parents say? No, nothing to worry. Most parents will say it will go out. It will become all right by itself.
True. Very true.
So it is, yes, it is true. Almost 50% and more children outgrow their stammering. But there are children who don't outgrow. So if after 2 months also the child doesn't outgrow his stammering, you must see a speech therapist, because if we give him the strategies to speak smoothly without the blocks and the struggle that he has, it becomes easy for him as he gets older. Because otherwise, when you stammer, a child becomes a question of self-confidence drops.
Exactly.
It becomes a vicious cycle. The emotional baggage that comes with stammering increases.
Correct, correct.
But if you catch them early, we be a very matter of fact about stammering, and we say, it is just a block. We don't make it a big deal. We don't try to hide it. We don't give any names to it.
Okay.
Because actually stammering is just a speech disorder. It is not a sign of weakness. It is not a sign, oh, he learned because the mother started working, or the father went abroad, or he was emotionally upset. It is not a sign of any of that.
Okay, okay.
It is a coincidence at that time if it happens, but it is generally just a speech disorder. It cannot be caused due to neglect. Okay. You know, then most of the children in a war-torn area should have stammering. Right? If emotions cause stammering, Syria and Iraq should have had the maximum number of children who stammer, right?
Correct.
Or children in an orphanage should have stammering. So it is not related to emotion at all. It is just, it can happen to, they say about 2% of children will stammer. So these are the, so we say come as early as possible, do not delay.
Okay.
So by 3.5, 4 for stammering, if you catch them young, we can teach them to speak smoothly.
Wow. Okay. It's such an interesting to, you know, get so much of information about this language and the, you know, variety of things people are going through. It's really very difficult for parents to accept there is something wrong with their children. And even if they want to, as you, you know, correctly said, the surrounding will suppress. Even the mother has a gut feeling that there's something wrong. I need to see. They say you are, you know, over anxious. You can wait. As you said, it's earlier is a better. So that, you know, once they have their checkup, if they don't have any problem, it's fine. But if they can help and better their life, I think it is always something to, you know, cherish. I have not heard of this behavioral aspect. Radhika, I've not heard of this behavioral analyst specialist, especially in Bangalore, until I met you. Can you share if this is a new field or new profession? Also, what made you to take up this study as a behavioral analyst? And, you know, you can also share some of your experience of how your work has helped your client to, you know, come in a flying color.
All right. So behavior analysis is a very, very new field in India. As I told you, I was the first speech pathologist and I was the third person in India, third or fourth person. So the awareness was not there that there is a new subject like this, which can be so effective for children with developmental disorders. So behavior analysis actually has its roots in America. Okay. B.F. Skinner is the father of behavior analysis. All psychologists, and you also must have studied about behavior, B.F. Skinner's experiments, where he uncovered the rules that govern human behavior. So, but it took a long time for people to accept his theories. All right. When he was saying that reward works for everybody.
Yeah, we had a positive experience. Yes.
Yes. So positive reward works for everybody. It can be an animal, it can be a human being. Nobody was willing to accept that 50 years ago. They said, no, we human beings are very different. We cannot be treated like animals.
Correct, correct.
So his study was not understood by people in the 40s and 50s. It is only after the 70s that people slowly, his students managed to, you know, do a study which brought about dramatic change. And that's when the awareness improved that his topics, his books are so wonderful and they're so reliable and so correct. They're all absolutely true. And it is like an experiment that he did and they all are valid today. Even today, if you do the experiment, it works. So it took a long time to understand. And so I think it became popular in the West in the 80s. Around the 80s, it became popular in the West. 80s to 90s, it became popular in the West. But we got to know only in the 2000s. In 2000, when I started my private clinic, first my clinic which I opened in 2002, that's when I, through a parent of a child with autism, I got to know that there is a science called, there is a subject that I can study, behavior analysis.
Wow.
So it is a new science. It's an offshoot of psychology.
Yes.
All right. So it was part of psychology when Skinner is a psychologist. Correct. But when he found there's so much to study about human behavior, it slowly had enough body of work, and it has become a separate science by itself today.
Correct.
So today we can do a bachelor's degree in behavior analysis and a master's degree in behavior analysis. You know, there's enough to study about. Correct. So it has become an offshoot of psychology. Wow. So it is new. Yeah. Okay. And why I took it up was because children with autism pose certain challenges that traditional therapy, speech therapy, or any other therapy was not able to break down those challenges and improve their communication or improve their behavior. Okay. So I was really stuck, and I was really feeling very bad that I could not help these children beyond the point. All right. And that's when I got to know that applied behavior analysis is the gold standard. It has been researched. It has been proved to be effective in solving the behavior problems of children with autism. It can reduce their problem behavior. It can improve their attention. It can help them learn to cooperate with us. Because unless this foundation is there, how can I teach them to communicate?
Exactly. That's
right. So the foundation, the behavior analyst can, bring this child to a level where he can pay attention to us. So that's why I did the masters. Though I was almost 40 plus when I did it, I managed to do it because it was online.
Wow.
And they have a very beautiful system in the West. Online education is beautifully executed, and I really enjoyed studying it. The teachers were fantastic.
Wow.
And they took so much trouble to teach us everything. Okay. So I'm really very satisfied that I got, and I always am very grateful that I got a chance.
Okay.
Sitting in India to access the education system in the US. Those days, about 15 years ago, it was very difficult to go to the US.
Correct.
Today, it's become easy to go, right? But those days, it was really tough to go to US. So I was happy I could do the study online.
That's wonderful, Radhika. See, when it comes to behavioral, I've seen it's very common, these young children having frequent emotional outbursts. While some kids, exhibit some problematic behavior, I do understand that the problematic behavior arises due to lack of certain skills, like coping up with their emotions, or they don't know to negotiate or communicate their wish and needs with their elders, or delayed gratification, all these things. My question to you is, do all parents need to see a specialist for such behavioral correction, or when and whom they should take such help?
So see, it is dependent on the interest of the parents.
Correct.
And unless the behavior problem is really interfering in the child's life, interfering in the quality of the family life, interfering in the child's achieving success in his class, in his academics, or any other aspect of his life. If the behavior problems are patterns, habits that they have interfere, that's when you really need to come. No, because the small problems of a child throwing a tantrum here and there, child always going late to school, most parents don't think that is serious enough.
Correct.
But having said that, if you take a behavior analyst's ideas, you can solve all those problems also. So I have a niece who's always been late to school, right? The mother has to pack her bag and put everything and make everything and push her out of the house to catch the bus. So if the parent is okay about it and doesn't want any ideas to improve that, and he's happy to support the child, so be it. Okay. But we can give mother a strategy of how to change that behavior, and so that the child becomes independent and learns to be responsible for his own behavior, right?
Correct. Okay.
And learn to be on time to school and not have to be prompted to be sent to school on time. Okay. So it is up to the parents. The awareness is not there in India. In the West, I believe every school has a behavior analyst. All right. So, yeah, their numbers are so much. In India, we don't even have a university course that offers behavior analyst. Okay, so I am at Samvad. At Samvad, we offer a bachelor's degree in speech language pathology. Okay. So I am also hoping to start a postgraduate diploma in applied behavior analysis.
You should.
So that we increase manpower in this field.
Exactly. It's a need of an hour, I think, Radhika. You should start, I feel it is. The demand is so much. So. I think the supply is less, I feel.
Yes, now speech pathologists have become a little easy to get because there are about 50 plus colleges in India.
Okay.
When I did my course 30 years ago, there was only 2 colleges in India. And today there are about 50 plus colleges, almost 60 colleges. So easily 2,000 children are graduating every year. So the number of speech pathologists has increased, but behavior analysts, we are only about 40 people in India today.
Oh, okay.
Who are behavior analysts.
Okay.
So the very small number, we are hoping this tribe will increase.
Yes.
And we'll be able to improve the quality of life of so many families.
That's absolutely.
Because a behavior problem, a difficult child, a tantruming child, very stressful in a family dynamics. Mother is always stressed. There is so much of fight going on between the parents, each one trying to blame each other, because nobody can understand how to solve a problem, you know, of the child. So it becomes very difficult. So sometimes you need a professional to help you if the problem has become too much.
Yeah.
And we can
help. People, it was a taboo. I think now people are more aware and they're, you know, taking that help. I think it should be like, you know, more of such approach.
Yes, it will improve with time. Yes, nowadays we are very busy compared to what we were before.
Okay.
It is improving. Yeah, awareness is improving.
Okay. So with your conversation, I understand like, yes, as you said, you know, kids focus on excuses all the time. I think parents need to focus on responsibility. Who don't want their kids? I think all parents want a disciplined and, you know, well-behaved child. See, many times parents, even myself as a parent, we all like, you know, they know that they need to intervene certain actions or they need to say no or things, but most of the time parents lack that strategy how to approach, especially with this kind of pandemic where kids and parents have been more stressed due to this lockdown and, you know, with these online classes, and mother has multiple roles to play and parents are doing their best. If you can, you know, throw some light and some of the do's and don'ts and of your views to be aware while dealing with the behavioral aspects of these kids, your words of wisdom to our viewers.
Yeah, there are, parenting is a very tough job. It's not easy, especially in today's day and age, where there are nuclear families and the work pressure is so much for moms and dads. So naturally parenting gets more stressed. So a lot of parents try to, you know, are really stressed on how to manage their child. They want to give them quality time, but they're not able to do it. So and children are very sensitive. They can perceive that and mother does not have time and they can take full advantage of the situation. All right. So my general guidelines for parents is that they must find the time to spend with the child. Quality time with the child there is no two things about that. Having a relationship that is meaningful with your child is the first step to be able to discipline him later on. All right. Without having a good relationship with the child, if you discipline it, it is only temporary. It will not last long. But if you have a good relationship with your child, and what do you mean by good relationship? Means it should be genuine time that you spend with the child with full interest on the child, not having your phone and sitting next to the child. Right? So parents should be able to spend that quality time doing things together, even if it's household chores. Include the child with you.
That's awesome.
Spend time together, go out together. And once you're doing that and listen to the child, you know, we parents generally are very critical about our children. If they say something, oh, this has got lost, mama, I'm crying, and their child is crying, we will say, shut up, don't cry for such small things. You know, and some children are very sensitive. The moment you say that, they get a message that you don't value them. Of course, there are easygoing children who will fight back. But those children, anyway, they're very bold, so nothing will happen. But the milder ones get affected. If every time mother is criticizing the child, that you're not doing good enough, this is not good, that is not good, you're not doing good. And the mother is doing this with what intention? She thinks if she praises her child, this child will become too proud. Drishti agbudutte. In India, we think parents say, how can I only praise my child, ma'am?
Correct.
So in my therapy session, sometimes I have to give the training to the mother. Say, good, he did it, he completed the work. She said, so what? He did it there was only 5 there, so he did it. No. I said, even if he did it, this is the first time he did it. So reward him for that.
You're very miser in rewarding.
Yeah, we are very generous with the criticism, but very miserly with reward.
Correct.
So I think we must balance it. Because you and me like praise, don't we? We like to be appreciated. Correct. Same way our children also human beings. And Skinner has very clearly said that. We don't need Skinner to tell us that. All of us know praise works. Genuine praise works. Right? Correct. So parents should get understand that praise is important.
Wow.
All right. Next important thing is that you must be very clear when you set expectations from your child. When you set an expectation, especially in academics, we must know the child's level and then set an expectation. If your child's baseline general performance is 60%, he's been getting. Suddenly you say, I want you to get 90%, then I'll buy you your cycle. Is it realistic? No. Right? So child will say, I can't do it. Forget it. This mother, I can never please my mother.
Yeah.
Or I can never please my father, and he will do all his own way, he will go. But if you say 60 you're being getting, if you can get 65, step by step motivate him. No, Rome was not built in one day, and no child can from a 60 become a 90%. Right? And so parents should have realistic expectations. Okay. In India, the problem that I have seen is parents have unrealistic expectations for academics.
That's so true.
Okay. And no expectations to do the household chores. So the child is not expected to put his shoes back, put his bag back in his place, clean his room, not responsible to do any helping at home, but he's supposed to get 80%, 90%. All right. So this balance is required. The child should be given responsibilities at home too. He should be made responsible for his own behavior in his room. But we in India, there are servants, so nobody does any work. And only in academics, you have such high expectations. So somewhere a balance is required. And I always tell my parents, please get a balance. Make him feel valuable in the house also.
Wow.
Then setting of rules. When a parent sets rules, okay, no TV today or no this thing, you must be able to follow through on your plan. If you say no to a child, and if the child starts crying, what happens generally? Somebody else in the house, your spouse or your in-law, mother-in-law or your mother will say, why are you making your child cry? Let him do what he wants. They will interfere. And this is very wrong for the child. It's not healthy for the child at all. Child understands now mother's rules have no value. Now, if I say no to my mother, everybody else in the house will support me. I will not. She will never value the mother. So this is the most common problem, because as soon as the mother puts any rule, or in some cases the father puts the rule, mother will say, no, I don't want the child to cry. So parents should decide on the rule and both of them should stick to it. Even if the child cries, the child should realize that in this house, if mother says no to something, she means it. It's not that I can negotiate and convert it.
Okay. Yeah, they need to have a one voice.
Yes, parents should have one voice. This is very, very important. Correct. Once that the child knows, then okay, then I can't fool around here. The TV will be switched off because whatever I say is not going to switch off. Correct. So both have to be emotionally strong and both should want it.
I think that is challenging.
Yeah, because it's crying, no, a little bit of crying the child does, that irritates everybody. And that's the most powerful weapon a child has.
Yes.
He will whine a little bit, he'll do cry a little bit, sulk a little bit, everybody's heart will melt. And they switch on the TV back. So the child gets these inconsistent rules and therefore he will behave badly, because every child needs rules which are consistent. If they're inconsistent, the behavior will really go spoiled.
Very well said, Radhika. As you say, parents are the biggest role model for kids. If we say something, watching all the time the phones and say don't see the phone, it's a dual act. What you say and what you're doing is totally different. So kids get confused. So even when I do a parenting workshop, I always say you are a role model. Walk what you talk. So because they always close their ears for advice, open their eyes for example. So you be the example. Very nicely
Absolutely.
said on that.
Absolutely.
And yeah, we in fact with your conversation, a lot of early intervention with these children we focused. Is it possible that adults in their 30, 40 or 50 also suffer from emotional behavioral challenges, and these would impact their intellectual capacities? Is it still possible to support such adults, Radhika?
So generally, regular adults will never come for any therapy, right? However badly they behave, they will not want therapy. Okay, but we work with children who have intellectual difficulties, like children, they are intellectually deficient or dementia patients. Okay. They are adults who have severe behavior problems. Okay. Or an adult who's had a head injury might have a very severe behavior problem. So for that, you need professionals. You need professional behavior management team that can stop these behavior problems. Wow. So it is possible. There are people who are in behavior analysis. You can decide to specialize in which population you want to work.
Correct, correct.
Even as speech pathologist, some people like to work only with children. Some like to work only with adults. So everybody finds which area interests him. Okay. So we work on that population. Wow. So as behavior analysts, some people work only with older people, only with dementia, only with head injury. And people like me work with regular kids and children with developmental disabilities.
Okay. Okay.
You know, so each one of us specialize in different population.
Okay. Thank you so much, Radhika. Your discussion gave a glimpse into how behavioral analysts could be a help in overcoming emotional and behavioral challenges in both kids and as well as adults. I also realized the need of an hour is such a more specialist in this emerging domain to help better deal with such challenges to lead more stress-free and fulfilling life. Thank you once again for coming into our channel and, giving us so much information. Thank you, Radhika.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Good fun.
We at Digital Wellness are aimed at promoting holistic approach to health and wellness by increasing both physical and mental health quotient. Hope you enjoyed hearing this very deep conversation with Radhika on how we can bring in behavioral changes for betterment in mental health. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned to hear more interesting stories. Also leave your comments on what you think on this conversation. Also leave a note in case you want us to cover any other areas in mental wellness. See you soon. Take care.